Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Jan with Gypsy Studio and I appreciate you visiting my channel today. Today we're going to do a quick tutorial on how I make my faux wax seals. Here are a few examples of my wax seals, and I've been asked to do a tutorial on how I do these, and so I'm going to walk you through everything you need today and how you can make these with just a few simple tools and supplies. So we'll get started. So the first thing you will need is something to make an impression on your wax with, and I have these wax seals that I've had for years, so I've been using those as well. I am also using coins because sometimes foreign coins have just beautiful impressions on them. Just keep in mind that when you do the impression, that any words or numbers will be backwards on the stamp, on the wax seal, but it hasn't been a big deal for me. And I love this one because it has that beautiful iris on there, and that one turns out really nice. So that's what you'll need to make your impressions. The second thing you'll need is a hot glue gun with just some clear hot glue. You will need these are deli papers or waxed sheets. I've had this for years. It's also called dry wax paper. I think I got this at Sam's years ago. There's 500 sheets in here, and this came in a 2-pack, so I'm still working my way through this. So it's papery on one side and waxy on the other. And then you'll need some paint. I'm just using Dick Blick's matte acrylic black paint, just plain acrylic paint. And then you will need something to highlight it with. I have been using this vintage gold from Art Alchemy on Amazon. It's just a gilding wax. You could also use a gold metallic or iridescent paint if you've got that as well. So that's everything you need. And to get started, what you want to do is take a piece of your wax paper, and I will usually cut this in half because I don't make that many wax seals at any one time. I only use 1 or 2 per journal, and so I don't need that many. And I use the waxy side versus the paper side, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So I usually cut this in 4 pieces. This makes a lot of wax seals. So we'll put 3 of those aside and start with this one. And so it's really simple. You want to take your hot glue gun once it's heated up, and you just, depending on the size of your impression, some take 1, some take 2, depends on your glue gun too. This is a mini glue gun, so you just put the glue down. You take your impression, your wax seal, and you just put it in the hot glue, and you just leave it. Couple reasons: it needs to cool, otherwise it'll come apart, and also if you touch that metal, it's hot because the glue is obviously hot. So we're going to do a couple more of those. So there's one, and that's just zodiac sign there, and this one is a rose, and it has a little bit deeper impression, so I usually will give that one 2 squirts just to make sure there's enough to give it a nice circle around the outside edge as well as get the rose impression. And again, just put it in there. If it doesn't come out exact, it's not a big deal, but put it in there and then just leave it and let it cool and come back to it later, and I'll show you that later. So for the coins, it's basically the same process. For the small to medium coins, I'll usually do maybe 1.5 scoops, and then just take the coin, lay it down, press it in, try and press it evenly so you get a nice circle around the outside edge. And those coins will get hot, so I'll just tell you now. Let's do a little bit more for this one. This one's a little bit bigger, and we've got that nice design on the other side. And then this one is really big from Australia, so we'll do maybe 2.5 squirts on my minigun of that. And I like that other side, so we'll put that down and press it. And again, just leave it. Unplug your hot glue gun when you're done, because that's all you will need that for. So we're going to put those aside for now and let those cool off while we do the next section. And when you pull off your wax, your impression, whatever you've used, your coin or your stamp or whatever, you'll be left with these clear hot glue impressions on your wax paper. And so what you want to do at that point is take your black acrylic paint or whatever color you're using, and I will usually just put some on some extra deli paper and use that. And the quality of your paint will determine how many coats you need. If it's a thinner, more transparent paint, you may need a couple of coats. But this Dick Blick matte acrylic, if I don't have too much water on my brush, it usually only takes one coat. And you want to make sure that you get into all the little nooks and crannies, and you also want to make sure that you get around the edge so that that clear hot glue doesn't show. And then you just paint all of your seals. Leave them on the wax paper. That's why I like this deli paper, or this wax paper. You could probably use wax paper as well, though I haven't tried it. Is because it gives me something to hold on to while I'm painting them, and then they come off of the paper pretty easily. So get all those painted, and you can start to see the designs come up when you paint it. So make sure we get all the edges. And I think we're good. This is the last one. So once you're done with the paint. You don't need that anymore. If you do need a second coat, just let these dry. Go make another sheet and then come back and paint them again. Make sure they dry really well, because the next phase is going to be gilding with the gold wax. So we'll be doing that next. I'm going to pull these back just to show you. They've had, what, maybe a minute or two to dry. These coins are still a little bit warm, but they will come up. So I just hold the wax seal down a little bit and just peel this off. And when those are ready to come off, they just pop off like that pretty easily. I've had really good impressions with all of these with hot wax. And then the coins, the same thing. The coins will be thinner because they don't have as much of the design incised as those, but still they turn out really nicely. Just make sure you get a hold of that so you don't pull it off of the paper, and that enables you to paint it more easily later. So just catch the edge of that hot glue and just peel the coin up. So see, those are done and ready to paint. So we'll set those aside, and so while those that we painted are drying, I've already painted a sheet with 4 seals on it in black paint. And so you want to pull out your gilding wax or your gold paint. You could use a brush and just lightly brush over it or whatever, but I usually just get a teeny tiny dab on my finger, rub it in the lid. You don't want to overdo it. All you're trying to do is accentuate the design, so I go around the edge and just hit the highlights. Just kind of accentuate the design. If you want a little bit on the inside, you can do that, but it doesn't take much. And here's that beautiful iris coin that we did. That's pretty. And here's another coin with a impression of a woman on it as well. That turned out nice. And then this is one of my favorites. This is just a rose, and that has some nice raised lines on the leaves and on the rose, and so it turns out really nice when you do the gilding. So there you go. And that's it. You are done. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is that if you don't like to paint them in black and gild them with gold, then you can do other colors. And I did these. This is Pyrrole Red, Raw Umber, and Burnt Sienna or Raw Sienna. And they were just a little bit too bright for me, so I knocked them down. I knocked these two down with a little of the Raw Umber. And as you can see, the Raw Sienna that I used is Liquitex Heavy Body, so it's a good thick paint, so it only took me 1 coat to cover that. The Raw Umber is the Galleria, Winsor Newton Galleria brand. It's a little bit thinner, and so you can tell, you can still see some of the hot glue through the edge there, and so you may want to give that a second coat before you gild it, because the hot glue will show through. And these aren't quite dry yet. This one might be dry. Let's see how that looks with the gold. And that doesn't look too bad. There's not enough contrast on that for me, so I'll probably just paint over that in black and reuse it, but you know, but it will work. And the red might be dry. Let's try that. Yeah, so if you want a red seal, you can definitely do a red seal. This is just a little bit, that's a little bit bright for my taste. I like it a little bit more subtle. So there are your two options for that. And the last thing, and the reason I like the deli paper, is because when you pull these off, you still get a little bit of that wax deli paper that adheres to the back of the seal. And I like this because it gives it a little bit more strength. And also, it gives you a little bit of a rough edge. It gives something for the glue, whatever glue you're using to glue it down, and the paper to kind of adhere to, so it's not such a slick surface. And so that's why I like them. And you can see they're really flexible, and they won't break like the wax seals. And you can use them on anything. I have not mailed these in the U.S. mail on the outside of an envelope, so I can't speak to that, but it'd be worth a try just to see, especially with the ones made with the coins, because they come out really nice and thin, and if you use a really good glue, you can do that. I use Fabrifix to put these on, so isn't that pretty? I love that one with the little iris on it. And then here's the rose one. So we'll pull that one up, and sometimes you might have to pull a little bit of the deli paper off of the edge of it, but it's not a big deal. Whoops. So there's the rose one. It's really pretty. And then the Zodiac one over here. So yeah, so that's all there is to it, to make your own faux stamps. And you could use anything, coins, you could use gears, you could use anything you've got that would make kind of a really cool impression. It doesn't have to be an actual wax stamp impression article. So yeah, so there you go. So I hope that helps. I hope that was has given you some insight into how to make some beautiful wax seals, faux wax seals for yourself. And again, hot glue, acrylic paint, and I use the black, and some gilding wax or some gold iridescent paint and some deli paper, and you're good to go. So that's it. All right, thank you so much. If you like this, subscribe and leave me a comment. Let me know if there's any other things you'd like to see, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.